Hey there, and welcome back. It is so good to have your company again, right here in the quiet of the night. Tonight, we are going to drift through the misty ancient world of the Celts, the warriors and dreamers who once walked the same moonlit earth we sleep upon now. Imagine, as you lie still, that the darkness around you is the same darkness they knew, deep and full of stories. So go ahead, settle in a little deeper. Let your pillow hold the weight of your head, feel your body sink gently into the mattress, and release any last thread of tension with a slow, calming breath. Tonight I will share with you a handful of peaceful, fascinating facts about the Celts, their Druids, their art, and their lost kingdoms, delivered one soft detail at a time. There is no need to remember anything, and it is perfectly okay if sleep carries you away before the end. If nights like these bring you a little peace, consider subscribing, and I will be here to do the same whenever you need me. And now, let us step quietly into the past. The Druids were the quiet guardians of wisdom among the Celtic tribes, serving as judges, teachers, and healers who carried entire libraries of knowledge not in books but in the depths of their memory. To become a Druid meant dedicating decades to learning ancient laws, the movements of the stars, and the healing properties of every root and leaf. They held a deep and tender belief that a sacred spirit pulsed through every tree, every stream, every stone, so their most solemn gatherings took place not in temples of stone, but in the dappled stillness of oak groves. Picture the way the light would filter through the leaves, casting shimmering patterns on the forest floor as they spoke of things eternal. It was a wisdom as quiet and steady as the trees themselves. When you think of the Celts and their love of beauty, you might picture the breathtaking jewelry they wore, especially the magnificent Torcs. These were not simple necklaces. They were heavy, gleaming bands of twisted gold and silver, carefully crafted to rest with a gentle weight against the collarbone. A Torc was far more than an ornament. It was a symbol of the highest status and a kind of spiritual shield, believed to offer the wearer protection from harm. Imagine a soft glow from a hearth fire catching the curves of the metal, lighting up the face of a chieftain or a storyteller, the warm light dancing on the precious surface. They were like circles of captured sunlight, meant to be worn close to the heart. In the mist-shrouded landscapes of ancient Ireland, the Celts built their homes in a way that seemed to grow right out of the living land. They raised towering ring forts and circular dwellings, their rounded walls flowing perfectly with the rhythm of the rolling green hills. There were no sharp corners to break the harmony, only soft, protective curves designed to cradle an entire community inside. Feel in your own body, just for a moment, that sense of being held in a circular, embracing space where the wind is blocked, the fire is warm, and the conversation hums low. Inside these grassy earthen forts, the boundary between the human world and the wild, beautiful outside felt safely blurred, a home built for dreaming. The Celts even found a way to whisper their stories into stone, through an ancient alphabet called Ogham. This was not a writing system of grand, sweeping letters, but a quiet sequence of soft notches and simple lines carved along the sharp edge of a standing stone. You could run your fingers along the grooves, just as someone might have done 2,000 years ago, feeling the rhythm of the marks. These were often called tree alphabets because each character was named after a different tree, binding language again to the sacred natural world. When they carved these messages, they were leaving a permanent, gentle voice in the landscape, a quiet record for future generations to discover and wonder over. Much of what we still find beautiful in Celtic art is the timeless, flowing interlace style. You have likely drifted off to sleep before picturing those endless spirals and intricate knots, where a line weaves over and under itself in an eternal, patient dance. There is no real beginning or end to these patterns, and that is the point. They represent the unbroken cycle of life, the way all things are connected and drift together across time. Imagine tracing one single silver thread in your mind as it turns and loops, never breaking, always returning to itself. It is a soothing way to think about the universe, that we are all part of a vast, softly woven fabric, where every thread gently touches every other. Let that thought carry you deeper into rest. In the quiet groves of the ancient world, the Celts held a deep and soulful connection with the living land around them. They did not simply see trees as wood and leaf, but as quiet sentinels marking the thresholds of other realms, particularly the rowan and the hazel. To sit beneath their boughs was to be in a sacred place, a whispering gallery where the boundary between the physical and the spiritual felt as thin as morning mist. It was a common belief that the rustling wind passing through the leaves was not a random sound, but a soft, deliberate voice. For those who knew how to still their own minds and truly listen, that gentle murmur carried the guidance and loving wisdom of the ancestors, a quiet conversation between the past and the present. This profound sense of connection extended deeply into the very fabric of their society, which was woven together like a warm and tightly knit tapestry. Ancient Celtic life was organized not around vast, impersonal empires, but within small, peaceful kinship groups known as tuatha. To belong to a tuath was to be held in a cradle of unwavering loyalty and a shared living history, a feeling that must have been as comforting and essential as the warmth of a hearth fire on a cold night. These communities were not built on rigid laws, but flourished through a gentle, unspoken system of reciprocity and mutual support, a graceful dance of giving and receiving that bound one person to another, and each individual to the land. It was a quiet architecture of belonging, creating a world where no one stood alone. From this deep sense of place and community emerged a remarkable mastery over the earth's hidden treasures, for the Celts were artisans of extraordinary skill. They worked as delicate metalsmiths, patiently coaxing glowing copper and bronze into forms of breathtaking elegance and purpose. Imagine the soft, intentional tapping of a hammer shaping a sheet of metal into a mirror or an ornate, ceremonial basin. These were not merely functional objects, but vessels for capturing light itself. As dusk fell and the soft flicker of an oil lamp was lit, these polished surfaces would spring to life. They caught and scattered the modest flame, transforming it into 1,000 shimmering points of liquid gold that danced softly on the walls of a dim roundhouse, a quiet, private magic born from earth and fire. This profound awareness of light and shadow found its ultimate expression in their sacred calendar, particularly in the quiet transition of the festival known as Samhain. This was the gentle threshold marking the end of the bright harvest and the beginning of the earth's long, silent winter sleep. It was a liminal, magical time, a moment of pause in the great rhythm of the year when the veil separating the world of the living from the world of the spirits became thin and translucent, like a fine linen curtain stirred by a breath. On this night, families would gather not in fear but in quiet reverence, drawing close around the warm, protective glow of their communal fires. They welcomed the coming frost, not as an ending, but as a quiet, inevitable guest, greeting the dark season with a rich tapestry of songs and ancient stories passed down through countless generations. Across all their quiet and now lost kingdoms, this deep reverence for the cycle of life was etched directly onto the landscape itself. The Celts cultivated lush, carefully tended gardens and sweeping fields of golden grain that would sway softly in the breeze, like a gentle, sunlit sea. To look out upon the land was to see a serene and living backdrop for a culture that did not fight against the river of time, but chose instead to drift upon its current with grace. They found profound meaning not in the frantic scramble of progress, but in the slow, rhythmic pulse of the seasons and the quiet, patient drift of the sun across the sky. In the gentle turning of a leaf from green to gold, and in the silent unfolding of a seed into a harvest, they saw the quiet, beautiful pattern of a life lived in harmony with the earth itself, a peaceful dream from which we are only now beginning to awaken.
Imagine the ancient groves, where Druids gathered not with scrolls but with memories. They were the living libraries of their people, choosing to memorize thousands of verses of poetry and law rather than entrust their wisdom to stone or parchment. They believed the spoken word was not a dead thing, but a breathing entity that carried a living energy. When a Druid spoke, they were releasing a quiet, enduring breeze that could float through the ages, touching minds yet unborn. This tradition turned memory into a sacred art and the air itself into a keeper of secrets. Listening, one might almost feel that soft whisper of ancient knowledge passing by.
Look closely at Celtic art, and you'll find yourself drawn into a world of endless motion. The Tène style swirls before your eyes with spirals that coil inward like a fiddlehead fern unfurling in slow motion. Interlaced curves flow without beginning or end, gently mimicking the path of a stream winding through a calm forest. These patterns were not mere decoration. They were designed to guide the eye on a peaceful, meditative journey. As you trace the lines, your breathing might slow, and your thoughts might quiet, looped into a serene repetition. It's an art that invites you to wander, but also to rest in the beauty of the continuous line. High in the bare branches of the winter oak, a mysterious plant clings, as if it simply appeared there by magic. The Celts saw mistletoe as a celestial gift, something that drifted down from the heavens to bless the earth. They believed it held a warm, healing energy for the spirit, a remedy not just for the body, but for the soul's unseen ailments. Druids would harvest it with the utmost ceremony, using a golden sickle to catch the sunlight as they cut, never letting it touch the ground. This ritual was a moment of profound connection between the sky's gift and human hands. Even now, the mistletoe reminds us of a time when plants were seen as sacred visitors from the stars. In the Celtic world, the strength of a leader was not defined by gender but by the spirit within. Women often rose to positions of great influence, their authority as natural as the flowing rivers they revered. They were living mirrors of the powerful goddesses in their mythology, embodying wisdom, sovereignty, and a fierce love for their people. Queen Boudica led her people with a steady resolve that blended strength with an unshakable connection to her ancestral lands. Her voice was not just a command, but a call from the very soil and stones beneath her feet. This tradition speaks of a society that honored the balanced dance between the feminine and the sacred earth. The Celts spoke of a realm that lay just beside our own, a shimmering parallel place called the Otherworld. It was a land of eternal youth, where feasts never ended and sorrow never took root. They believed this peaceful domain was not a distant heaven, but something accessible, almost touchable, through quiet portals in the landscape. A deep, still lake might be a doorway, or the soft shadows draped over an ancient burial mound could lead you there. It was a place where time moved like a lazy river, and the soul could find rest from the world's sharp edges. This belief kept a gentle magic alive in the everyday, reminding them that paradise might be just a step away through the mist. The Torc was a magnificent neck ring, twisted from gold or bronze, gleaming with a quiet luster that caught the soft glow of the hearth fire. It was more than mere jewelry. It was a silent emblem of high status and nobility, worn without ostentation. Imagine the weight of it resting against the collarbone, each twist of metal telling a story of the artisan's skill. In the dim, flickering light of a chieftain's hall, these ornaments would shimmer gently, marking those of rank with an understated grace. It was a mark of belonging, a circle of precious metal that connected the wearer to the ancestors and the land. The Torc was a whisper of power, not a shout. In the quiet rivers and deep pools of the ancient world, there swam a creature of legend, the salmon of wisdom. It was said that this salmon gained all the world's knowledge by eating the hazelnuts that fell into the sacred waters. Picture the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees, the gentle plop of a nut breaking the surface, and the silver flash of the fish rising to consume it. This story reflects a gentle philosophy that true wisdom is not seized but absorbed, bit by bit, through the slow, steady flow of nature's currents. Like the river that carves its path patiently over stone, understanding comes to those who wait, who drift in the quiet rhythm of the world. The Celts were masters of fire and earth, transforming raw bronze and iron into objects of breathtaking beauty. In their workshops, the rhythmic clang of the hammer against metal was like a musical pulse, a dance of creation. They treated the forging of a sword or the delicate braiding of a necklace not merely as labor, but as a sacred art. Imagine the glowing forge, the sparks rising like tiny stars into the smoky air, as a smith pours molten metal into a mold of carved stone. From these ancient hands came shimmering weaponry that caught the morning light and delicate jewelry that adorned the quiet moments of life. Each piece was a timeless treasure, a fusion of skill and spirit. High on the rolling hills, the Celts built their homes in circular patterns, forming hill forts that hugged the contours of the land. These were not harsh fortifications but gentle circles, wooden palisades and thatched roofs that wrapped the community in a warm, protective embrace. Look down from above and you would see rings of dwellings, like ripples in a pond, blending seamlessly with the sweeping curves of the landscape. From these heights, the people could gaze out over quiet valleys and misty forests, feeling both safe and deeply connected to the earth. The design spoke of harmony, a life lived within the gentle arms of nature, where every home faced inward toward a shared hearth fire. It was a world where the outside and inside flowed together like breath. Samhain arrived as the last golden leaves fell, and the air grew crisp with the promise of frost. It marked the quiet, sacred transition from the light of summer to the stillness of winter, a time when the veil between worlds grew thin. Families gathered not in fear but in gentle anticipation, drawing close around crackling fires that pushed back the creeping dusk. They felt the drifting mists of the new season settle around their shoulders like a cool, soft cloak. In the flickering glow, they honored the ancestors and welcomed the darkness as a time for reflection and rest. It was a moment to pause, to feel the turning of the great wheel of the year, and to find warmth in togetherness as the long night drew in. Still here, drifting on the edge of sleep? That's all right. You don't need to be anywhere else. If the misty hills and quiet fires are still with you, there's more of these old stories to share. If you're enjoying this gentle journey, a like helps other night owls find their way here. Close your eyes and let us wander back, to a time when wisdom lived not on paper, but in the breath between words. The Druids held a gentle authority, peaceful and mysterious. They were the keepers of deep memory, carrying centuries of knowledge within them. They believed that to write down sacred things would weaken the power of the mind, so they passed their teachings in a soft-spoken flow, shared in quiet contemplation among the deep green shadows of the forest. Imagine their voices mingling with the whisper of leaves, a living library of sound and silence, a tradition that hums softly through the ages. Their wisdom was a river, flowing gently from one generation to the next. Now, under the gentle light of that ancient world, the Celts shaped gleaming torcs, heavy neck rings of twisted gold and silver. These ornaments rested lightly on the collarbone, shimmering with a soft glow. They were more than jewelry, they were floating symbols of status and spiritual protection. The metal felt warm against the skin, a gentle weight that spoke of belonging and unseen guardians. As the wearer moved, the Torc caught the light, drawing the eye into a quiet dance of reflection. In its gleam was a story of the earth and the stars, woven together in precious metal. It was a silent companion through life, a circle with no end, reflecting the endless flow of all things. The Celts drifted through a world alive with spirit, a deep connection woven into every living thing. They believed that spirits resided in the quiet murmur of rivers and the soft rustle of leaves. This animistic faith turned the landscape into a breathing companion, so they set apart certain groves of oak and hazel trees as sacred spaces. These were places for peaceful reflection and gentle ritual, where one could sit in the dappled light and feel the presence of something older than time. The forest was not just wood and leaf, it was a living sanctuary, whispering secrets to those who listened with their heart. In these groves, time slowed, and the boundary between the seen and the unseen grew thin. This sense of flowing life found expression in their art, a swirling dance known as the Tène style. Lines curved and spiraled into organic wave-like patterns, never straight, always moving. These rhythmic designs mirrored the winding paths of nature, the curl of a fern frond or the ripple of a stream. In their metalwork you can see a sense of eternal movement, a quiet harmony that feels like a song without sound. Each spiral invites the eye to follow, to rest in the gentle turning. The patterns seemed to breathe, capturing a stillness that was alive, and in that stillness you might hear the echo of a Druid's chant, soft and far away. And they watched the sky with patient eyes, developing a deep understanding of the lunar cycle. They created calendars to track the changing seasons, observing the quiet transition of the year with celestial precision. They saw the moon grow full and then fade, marking the arrival of spring and the soft descent of winter. This knowledge allowed them to move in rhythm with the earth and the heavens, a slow and harmonious pulse that guided their days. They knew when to plant, when to harvest, and when to rest, all by the light of the silver moon. In this way, time was not a line but a circle, a gentle returning, and so they lived, wrapped in the quiet wisdom of the night sky. Throughout the rolling lands of Europe, the Celts built hill forts that rose softly from the earth, like sleeping giants wrapped in green. These great earthworks were carefully shaped to blend into the hills, their grassy slopes merging with the landscape until you could hardly tell where the land ended and the fort began. Standing on the summit at twilight, you would see the emerald valleys spread out beneath a sky full of quiet light, and a deep peace would settle over you. The hill fort was a sanctuary, a gathering place, where the whole community felt held by the land's gentle embrace. The only sounds were the wind through the grass and the distant murmur of voices echoing softly as if the hills themselves were singing a lullaby. The Celtic language evolved into a family of melodic tongues, as soft and fluid as mist over the sea. It branched into Goidelic and Brythonic, the ancestors of Irish, Scottish Gaelic, and Welsh, languages that still hum with ancient music. Each word carries a long, rolling vowel that seems to mimic the hills and the waves, creating a rhythm that soothes the heart. To hear a lullaby sung in Gaelic is to feel the cool Atlantic breeze and the gentle rocking of a currach on a calm lake. The sounds themselves are like a whispered invitation to let go of the waking world and slide into a serene, dreaming state. The lilt of the language wraps around you like a warm blanket, and you can almost see the misty green hills of an ancient homeland. In their quiet workshops, Celtic smiths coaxed glowing beauty from fire and glass. They mastered the delicate art of enamel, creating beads of the deepest red and the most vivid blue, each one holding the warmth of the flame inside it. These small treasures were not just kept for daily wear, they were carried across long, drifting trade routes, passing from hand to hand over misty moorlands and across shimmering rivers. Through these journeys, distant tribes became connected by a shared love for what was beautiful and handcrafted. On quiet nights, the beads would glow in the firelight, their reds and blues dancing like sleepy flames, each one a tiny dream of color and warmth. The gentle weight of a bead in the palm could lull the holder into a peaceful, drifting state, as if all the world's haste had melted away. The Celts believed that the world we see is only half the story, that just beyond our sight lay the other world. It was a place of eternal youth and peaceful abundance, where the meadows were always soft and the skies forever clear. The veil between worlds was thin, like mist, and during the quiet turning of the year, it became almost transparent. In these moments, one could drift closer to that realm of perfect stillness, feeling its calm wash over the heart. This gentle faith filled daily life with a soft, quiet assurance, knowing that just a breath away, all was serene and whole. Many Celtic homes were nestled beside slow-moving rivers and shimmering lakes, so the gentle murmur of water was the constant breath of daily life. The rounded houses, built of wattle and daub, curved warmly around the hearth, holding the golden firelight close as the morning mist rose softly from the lake. Inside, the air was filled with the soft sounds of water lapping and the crackle of burning wood, a duet of comfort that soothed the soul into a deep restfulness. The rhythm of the river set the pace for the day, slow and unhurried, as if time itself had learned to flow like water. In such a home, wrapped in the warmth of the fire and the song of the lake, one could drift into sleep with a heart utterly at peace. Let us drift back to a time when wisdom was a whisper in the air. The Druids served as the keepers of that deep knowing, spending many peaceful years memorizing vast quantities of law, history, and the slow path of the stars. They believed the written word could fade the purity of memory, so they passed their secrets down through soft-spoken phrases from teacher to student. In the stillness of sacred groves, these murmurs were like seeds planted in the mind, growing into forests of understanding without ever touching a page. And from that same wellspring of spirit, Celtic art bloomed with its flowing intricate knots and swirling spirals. These patterns seemed to drift endlessly in a loop, never beginning and never ending. They were designed to represent the eternal nature of the soul and the rhythmic unfolding cycles of the natural world. Each curve holds the turn of a season, the breath of the tide, a quiet promise of rebirth. It is a visual meditation, a reminder that all life is connected in a never-ending dance. Consider the Torc, a magnificent neck ring made of twisted gold or bronze. It was worn by the nobility as a shimmering symbol of status, resting gently against the heart. These graceful pieces often featured delicate terminals, crafted with a precision that reflected the warmth and wealth of the tribe. The metal would catch the firelight during evening gatherings, throwing soft glimmers into the darkness. It was more than adornment, it was a circle of belonging, a golden whisper of one's place within the great story. Far away, in the misty highlands of Scotland and Ireland, the Celts built circular forts known as hill forts. They gazed out over the rolling green landscape, silent and watchful through the drifting fog. These peaceful settlements provided a sheltered sanctuary where communities could gather safely under the vast starlight. Inside the stone walls, life moved at a gentle rhythm, protected from the wild. On clear nights, the stars would hang close, as if the people were nestled right into the fabric of the sky. And at the heart of their world stood the oak tree, holding a deep spiritual reverence. The Celts believed its sturdy branches reached toward the heavens, while its roots anchored the earth below, bridging all realms. They often gathered in quiet, shaded groves to perform their rituals, listening to the gentle rustle of the leaves. That sound was like a slow, ancient breath, a constant calming presence that smoothed away the worries of the day. The oak was their guardian, a timeless testament to standing strong and deep, connected to both sky and soil. Let these images carry you on the slow tide of dreams. In the soft emerald lands of the Celtic tribes, a gentle balance shaped daily life. Women moved through the world, not as shadows but as healers, their hands steeped in the secret remedies of the forest. They held the land, their connection to the earth as deep as the roots of ancient oaks, and they stood as political advisors, their wisdom guiding the clan like a lantern in the twilight. This was a society where power was a shared, flowing river, not a stagnant pool, and so the community drifted forward, wrapped in a quiet sense of unity and mutual respect. Imagine the soft murmur of voices around a fire, each one valued, each one heard. In such a balance, the seeds of harmony were planted and thrived. The ancient Gaels spoke a language that was itself a gentle, flowing stream. Their words were filled with soft consonants that whispered like wind through willow leaves, and rhythmic vowels that rose and fell like the tide. This was not just speech but a form of music, a linguistic art that gave birth to a rich tradition of poetry and storytelling. Even now, those same songs and tales echo through the quiet glens, carrying the soul of a people who wove beauty into every syllable. Close your eyes and you might hear it, a soft murmur drifting through the hills. It was a tongue that painted pictures in the air, turning everyday moments into woven tales of wonder. The Celts worked with gold as if they were coaxing light into solid form. Their hands created delicate ornaments and chalices that glowed with a soft, buttery warmth. Using patient techniques like granulation, they scattered tiny golden beads like stardust upon a surface, and with filigree, they spun threads of gold into intricate, lace-like patterns. These treasures held a quiet, glistening detail that seemed to capture the last light of the setting sun. To hold such an object was to hold a piece of a dream, carefully shaped by hands that knew the secret of turning metal into poetry. Each piece was a small universe of shimmer, meant to be cherished and passed through generations like a whispered secret. As the harvest drew its last golden breath, the festival of Samhain arrived like a soft exhale. It marked the quiet passage into the sleeping time of winter. Candles flickered in the darkness, their gentle flames casting a warm, protective glow. This was a moment for reflection, for remembering those who had walked the earth before. The veil between this world and the spirit realm felt thin and permeable, like a curtain of mist. So the living sat in soft candlelight, their hearts open to the whispers of ancestors carried on the autumn breeze. It was not a time of fear, but of tender closeness, a night when the world slipped into a gentle, otherworldly slumber. The ancient Celtic lands were a vast, living tapestry woven from deep emerald forests and shimmering blue lakes. These serene environments were not just a backdrop, but the very heartbeat of their mythology. In the quiet glades and beside still waters, people felt the presence of gentle spirits and floating deities. The rustle of leaves might be a water spirit's whisper, and the ripple on a lake might be the touch of a woodland god. From such peaceful landscapes, their stories bloomed like wildflowers, filling the world with a sense of calm and sacred wonder. Walk with me through that dreamscape, where every tree held a soul and every stream hummed an ancient lullaby.
In the quiet groves where sunlight drifted down in soft ribbons, the Druids served as the keepers of an ancient and flowing wisdom. Their study was a slow unwinding, a patient immersion that could last for 20 years, memorizing vast oral traditions that wove the fabric of their world. They chose not to write their sacred teachings on fragile parchment, preferring instead to let the knowledge settle deep within the mind, like pebbles coming to rest in a still pond. Through peaceful recitation, the words would float gently from one soul to another, a living breath that never needed to be caged by ink. This was a way of honoring the quiet depths of memory, where wisdom drifts and dreams.
Look upon the ancient art of the Celts, and you will see the interlaced style, a vision of endless floating knots and swirling spirals. These intricate designs were not mere decoration, but a mirror held up to the flowing rhythms of nature itself. They echoed the soft curl of a fern, the patient turning of a river, and the gentle spiral of a seashell. The Celts carved these patterns into golden torcs and shimmering jewelry, each piece a quiet symbol of the eternal cycle of life and rebirth. To touch such a treasure was to feel a soft connection to the infinite, a reminder that all things float in an unbroken circle of being. The Celts held a deep spiritual reverence for the mistletoe plant, viewing it as a celestial gift that had drifted down from the heavens to cling to the sturdy oaks. During the quiet of the winter solstice, the Druids would gently gather it with a golden sickle, their movements soft and deliberate in the crisp air. They believed this humble plant could heal wounds and sow seeds of peace, crafting it into potions and charms that shimmered with ethereal hope. Mistletoe was a green whisper in the bare branches, a soft reminder that life endures in the stillness of the longest night. It floated in the memory of those ancient groves, a celestial thread connecting earth to sky.
Ancient Celtic society was organized into small, drifting tribal kingdoms, each a soft realm of fields and forests guided by a nobility that cherished words over wealth. They valued poetry, music, and storytelling as luminous arts that bound their communities in a gentle, invisible net. Around warm hearths, as the flames danced in quiet rhythm, oral histories were shared, allowing the legacy of ancestors to float through the generations like embers on a breeze. These spoken traditions were the soft breath of memory, keeping the past alive in the peaceful cadence of each new day. So the Celtic people remained woven together, their identity a quiet stream flowing endlessly through the hills of time.
In the early Iron Age, within the quiet heart of the Alps, the Hallstatt culture created magnificent salt mines to extract a treasure they called white gold. This shimmering mineral, used for preserving food and trading, was a gift from the deep, a soft crystal born of ancient seas long vanished. The subterranean galleries remain cool and silent to this day, preserving the gentle echoes of an industrious people who worked in the dim, patient light. Walking through those tunnels feels like stepping into a dream, where time has settled softly on every rock and crevice. The Hallstatt legacy floats in the quiet air of those caves, a whispered memory of their enduring spirit. In the quiet morning mist, a Celtic warrior would reach for the woad plant, its leaves yielding a soothing blue pigment. This was not mere decoration, but a gentle ritual, tracing soft, swirling patterns on the skin. The cool dye seeped into the skin like a second breath, creating curving lines that echoed the rivers and the winds. Each mark was a quiet conversation with the earth and the sky, a way of wearing the spirit of the land, blending the human form with the ancient energies that moved through all living things. Far across the green hills of Ireland, the hill of Tara rises softly, a place where legend and the land become one. Here, the High Kings once walked, not in stone fortresses, but among sacred mounds and meadows that seemed to float above the earth. The grass grew in whispered waves, and the very air felt different, lighter. It was said that, at Tara, the boundary between this world and the spirit realm was as delicate as a spider's web, allowing the wise to feel the presence of those who had passed, drifting just beyond sight. To the Celts, the world was not just land and water, but a living map of sacred places. A bubbling spring, a hushed grove, a lonely mountain peak were all doorways into the calm otherworld, a realm of eternal summer and gentle twilight. And so they would seek out quiet rivers, their surfaces reflecting the clouds, and with silent reverence they would slip small offerings into the current, a bronze brooch or a twist of gold. These gifts were not to appease, but to honor the gentle water spirits, to say softly, "We remember you." From the voices of the ancient Celts grew two melodic branches of language, Goidelic and Brythonic, like two streams from the same sacred well. Even now, these tongues ripple through the soft landscapes of the West, the Welsh valleys, the Scottish highlands, the Irish coasts. Close your eyes and you might hear their rhythmic cadence carried on the breeze, a whisper of an older world gliding through misty glens and over heather-covered hills. The words themselves felt less like speech and more like a distant song, humming beneath the everyday sounds of life. In the later years, as the Roman world spread slowly north, many Celtic tribes found a gentle path of coexistence. Rather than fierce conflict, there grew a quiet blending, where swirling Celtic patterns met the classical forms of Mediterranean art. Jewelry and stonework began to carry a subtle fusion, a dance of two cultures. This peaceful meeting left a tapestry that lingered in the quiet corners of Europe for centuries, soft echoes in remote villages and forgotten shrines. It was a testament to the human ability to find harmony in difference, and the legacy of that cultural embrace still gently hums beneath the soil of places like Gaul and Britain. You're still here, drifting through the Celtic twilight with me. Let the words become just a lullaby now. I'll keep speaking. You just rest. The Druids, those spiritual guides of the ancient Celts, held a deep and quiet reverence for the mistletoe plant. They believed it was a gift from the heavens, a tender offering adorned with golden berries. With great care, they would use a golden sickle to gather it, never letting it touch the ground. They felt the mistletoe carried a soft, curative power, a gentle balm that could bring peace and healing to the weary soul. This sacred ritual was performed with whispers and slow movements, as if the very air around them was holding its breath. In their hearts, the Druids knew that this small, unassuming plant was a bridge between the mortal world and something much greater, a quiet key to unlocking inner calm. Many Celtic settlements were shaped as circular hill forts, a design that felt like a gentle, curving embrace around the community. These walls were built of stone, sweeping across the landscape in harmony with the rolling green hills. They blended so seamlessly into the earth that they seemed to be a part of nature itself, not a creation of man. The curves of the hill forts mirrored the natural cycles of the moon and sun, a soft pattern that echoed the rhythms of life. Within these protective circles, people found safety and a sense of belonging, cradled by the land. As dusk fell, the walls would catch the low light, and the fort would glow like a quiet star resting on the earth, a steady heartbeat in the ancient European wilderness. The Celts crafted a form of art known as the Tène style, filled with intricate patterns that seemed to flow and drift. Spirals and winding curves dance across surfaces of gold and bronze, moving with a peaceful, rhythmic grace. These designs were never static. They appeared to be in gentle motion, like water in a slow stream or clouds drifting on a summer day. Each swirl was intended to represent the eternal flow of nature, a visual meditation on life's continuous journey. When you trace these patterns with your eyes, it feels like a soft lullaby for the senses, guiding you into a state of quiet reflection. The art is a whisper from the past, reminding us that beauty can be found in the simple, ever-turning cycles of existence. In the quiet halls of Celtic society, the bards held a sacred role as keepers of memory. They would weave long, melodic poems that preserved the history of their ancestors, their voices floating through the air like a gentle breeze. These stories were not just tales. They were soft, rhythmic lullabies that connected the present to the distant past. As the bards spoke or sang, listeners would close their eyes and feel themselves drifting back in time, carried by the warm tones of the narrative. The words wrapped around the audience like a cozy blanket, stitching together generations with each verse. In those moments, the hall became a place where time stood still, and the wisdom of the elders flowed into the hearts of the living, a quiet stream of shared heritage. The ancient Celts embraced a philosophy of duality, believing that the physical world and the spiritual realm were separated by only a thin, shimmering veil. They imagined this veil as a delicate curtain, gently moving with the breath of the universe. It was not a hard barrier, but a soft.
Long ago, in a land of quiet forests and gentle hills, the early Celts shaped tiny discs of gold. Each coin was a small work of art, carrying the image of a graceful horse or a curving crescent moon. These golden pieces moved slowly along winding trade paths, from village to village, like leaves drifting on a calm stream. They carried not just value, but the quiet beauty of a people who saw wonder in the sky and the creatures of the earth. The Celts found their deepest peace among the oak trees. They believed the forest was a sacred home for the soul, a place where time moved like honey. The Druids would sit beneath the wide branches for many years, learning the language of the wind and the slow rhythm of the earth. In those green sanctuaries, wisdom was not taught in words alone, but absorbed like the soft light filtering through the leaves. Around the neck, a torc would rest, heavy and warm. These twisted rings of gold and bronze were more than simple ornaments. They caught the flicker of firelight on long winter nights, glowing softly against the skin. To wear one was to carry a quiet sense of belonging, a gentle mark of honor felt in the weight and the smooth, cool touch. It was a symbol whispered, not shouted, in the close circle of the hearth. Water was a doorway to another world, a shimmering curtain between this life and the deep unknown. The Celts would come to quiet lakes and slow rivers, holding a small bowl or a bright bead. They would let the offering slip beneath the surface, watching it sink into the dark, silent water. Down there, in the cool silt, these gifts have slept for centuries, dreaming in the stillness, untouched by the noise of the world above.
The turning year guided every hand and heart. Life followed a soft, steady wheel, from the first pale shoots of spring to the frozen hush of winter. Farmers walked the fields in tune with this slow dance, dropping seeds into the dark soil with a quiet trust. The harvest would come, filling the village with a peaceful plenty, and then the land would rest again, wrapped in silence, waiting for the wheel to turn once more. Let us now drift deeper into the ancient Celtic world, where wisdom was carried on a breath, and the veil between worlds was thin as mist. Long ago, in the misty lands of the Celts, the Druids served as the gentle keepers of wisdom. Their study was a quiet journey that lasted 20 years, during which they memorized vast stores of law, history, and the silent music of the heavens. They chose not to write their sacred knowledge down, for they feared that the written word might let the memory grow soft and lazy. Instead, they kept their teachings floating only within the mind, like a treasure carried on a breath. These precious truths were passed from teacher to student through the simple, timeless act of speaking, a whispered legacy that lived solely in the air between them. And from that same deep wellspring of spirit, emerged an art form that moved like water. The art of the Celts was defined by a style called la Tène, a name that conjures a world of flowing spirals and interlocking curves. These patterns were not drawn from rigid geometry, but from the organic shapes they saw in nature, the curl of a fern, the swirl of a river. Artisans carved these endless winding designs into warm golden torcs that circled the neck like a sunlit embrace, and into polished bronze mirrors that held a face as softly as still water, reflecting back a quiet soul. There was a sense of endless rhythmic motion in their work, a gentle, spinning energy that felt alive, as if the metal itself was still dreaming. This flowing movement mirrored their very understanding of the cosmos. The Celts looked upon the world as a delicate balance, a dance between the physical realm we touch and the other world that lies just beyond. This other world was a place of eternal youth and overflowing abundance, where time did not wear down the spirit. They felt this mystical land was separated from us by only the thinnest of veils. It could be glimpsed, perhaps, through the quiet shadows of an ancient forest, beneath the mirror surface of a deep lake, or within the soft mist that clings to a hillside in the early morning. To walk into such a silence was to almost touch the eternal. Rooted in this sacred landscape stood the oak, a living pillar of their faith. In ancient Gaul, the Celts held a deep reverence for the mighty oak tree, seeing it as a towering symbol of strength and a bridge between earth and sky. The Druids, in their sacred white robes, would seek the healing mistletoe from its branches, a plant they believed held a gentle, living magic. They gathered this golden gift with the greatest care, using a sickle of pure gold to ensure no iron would harm its spirit. This ritual, performed on moonlit nights, was an act of quiet devotion that honored the tree's life and the subtle power nestled high in its arms. Even deeper in time, the foundation of this reverence was already being laid. Long before the Celts of legend, their ancestors, the Hallstatt culture, carved their presence into alpine valleys. They built opulent burial mounds that rose like sleeping giants, filled with shimmering amber and polished salt crystal from the deep mines that gave them wealth. These quiet chambers, adorned with treasures that caught the light of another world, were timeless resting places, a gentle embrace for those who passed. This reflected a society that deeply honored the transition from this life to the next, a belief that death was a soft and honored journey into another morning.
Close your eyes and let your mind drift back to a softer time. In the hush before battle, Celtic warriors turned to the quiet of the woods. They gathered a humble plant and crushed its leaves to release a soft blue pigment known as woad. With gentle strokes, they painted swirling patterns onto their skin, each movement a slow meditation. This ritual was not just for war, but a sacred way to align their spirits with the calming colors of the twilight sky. The blue reminded them of dusk, of peace settling over the land, a quiet strength carried into whatever lay ahead.
And around their necks, they might have worn a symbol just as meaningful. The Torc was more than a simple ornament. It was a heavy neck ring, often twisted from gold or silver with the most intricate care. When it rested against the skin, it carried a warm weight, a constant reminder of connection. For the Celtic people, the Torc stood as a cherished symbol of status, nobility, and spiritual protection. Its elegant curves seemed to capture light, glowing softly as a mark of inner grace. To wear a Torc was to feel embraced by the gentle hands of tradition, a circle of continuity and calm. This same spirit of harmony extended into the very fields they tended. Ancient Celtic farmers moved in a slow dance with the seasons. They knew the earth's rhythms and they tended their fields with a patient love. Through careful crop rotation, they kept the soil rich and dark, never taking too much from the land. When the time came to plant, they looked to the sky. They watched the slow migration of the stars and the changing face of the moon. In the cool, damp earth, under a silver moonlight, they placed each seed with hope. It was an agriculture of listening, a quiet conversation between the people and the turning world. Their communities reflected this peace. The Celts built their homes in fortified settlements called oppida. These were nestled atop gentle hills, their sloping earthworks like arms cradling the community. Within those walls, a deep quietude reigned over daily life. Craftsmen bent over their work, weaving colorful wool into patterns that told stories of the land. Others shaped glowing metals into delicate jewelry, each piece a small tribute to beauty. The air was filled with the soft sounds of creation, the hum of a wheel, the whisper of a loom. It was a world where skill and patience blended into a steady rhythm, a peaceful sanctuary overlooking the misty valleys below. And even now, their legacy endures in the landscape. Across the misty landscapes of Ireland and Scotland, the Celts raised stones toward the sky. These standing stones in quiet circles still dot the green hillsides today. They were carefully placed to align with the soft light of the solstices, marking the sun's gentle journey across the year. On certain mornings, the first rays would slip through the stones, painting the ground with a golden glow. These monuments remain as peaceful anchors to the past, their silence speaking of a time when life moved to a slower tune. They measure out the steady rhythm of the turning year, inviting us to pause and feel the earth's enduring calm. Even now, in their stillness, they hold the memory of ancient hands and the quiet prayers of a people who lived in harmony with the stars. The Druids were the quiet keepers of wisdom, choosing to memorize their vast knowledge rather than write it down. This oral tradition ensured that their sacred laws and celestial observations drifted only from teacher to student in a soft, guarded succession. It was a deep, still process where words were held like secrets in the warm darkness of memory. Each breath of knowledge was a gift, passed gently and never cast into ink. Theirs was a world of quiet knowing, a lineage of whispers that flowed through generations like a calm, unseen river, carrying the weight of stars and seasons in a hushed, continuous stream. Celtic art is a floating dance of swirls and spirals known as the Tène style, where patterns wind endlessly into one another. These intricate curves were meant to mirror the rhythmic flow of nature and the interconnectedness of all living things. Each line twists and returns, a soft geometry of eternity, like a calm pulse beneath the surface of the world. It is a visual whisper, a tapestry of curves that invites the eye to drift and lose itself in a serene, unending loop. The art breathes with a life of its own, a silent melody of shape and shadow that speaks of a universe woven together, thread by delicate thread. The Torcs were heavy, golden neck rings that shimmered with a warm, soft glow, serving as symbols of high status and spiritual protection. These pieces of jewelry were often crafted with delicate twisting techniques, creating a sense of balanced harmony. The metal seemed to breathe on the skin, a gentle weight that spoke of power and a peaceful, inner light. Wearing one was like carrying a quiet sun around your throat, a circle of soft fire that hummed with a protective, low vibration. A Torc was more than adornment. It was a guardian whisper against the dark, a warm embrace in precious metal that settled the spirit into a state of calm balance. Ancient Celts viewed the natural world as a thin veil between our realm and a peaceful, mystical otherworld. They believed that certain groves of trees and shimmering lakes served as gentle gateways where the two worlds softly touched. In these places, the air felt thicker, heavier with a quiet magic, a subtle stirring just beyond the edge of sight. It was a landscape of soft thresholds where one could almost feel the brush of another reality, a cool, faint whisper from a parallel shore. The boundary was so fine, so fragile, that a sigh might cross it, a thought might drift through, blending the here and there in a tender, barely perceptible union. The Coligny calendar, etched into bronze, reveals the Celts' sophisticated understanding of the lunar and solar cycles. This quiet study of the stars allowed them to align their festivals with the drifting changes of the seasons. The metal tablet holds a silent music of time, a mapping of celestial rhythms in a steady, patient hand. It speaks of nights spent watching the sky, a deep, still communion with the cosmos, where each phase of the moon was a note in a grand, silent symphony. Through this, they charted a calendar not of mere days, but of soft, luminous moments, a gentle dance between light and dark that governed their lives with a quiet, cosmic grace. In the still of the Opida, Celtic homes were circles of warmth. Curved like the earth, they held the hearth's glow. Thatched roofs, thick and soft, kept the cool night at bay. Inside, the air was deep with silence, a dark, gentle embrace. No sound but the rustle of straw and a soft breathing, as if the house itself was asleep. In that cozy nest, the world vanished into a quiet hush. The night wrapped around like a vast, dreamless sleep. They farmed with a gentle hand, blending golden grains into the ancient, deep woods. The oak tree stood immense, a pillar of still strength. They revered it with a warm, quiet awe, as if the tree was breathing peace into the land. A deep calm hummed through the forest, soft as a lullaby. Standing under those branches, you felt time slow, the air cool and still, filled with a scent of earth and old magic, a reverence that soothed the soul into quiet rest. In the old myths, the Tuatha De Danann shimmer like a dream. They came from a land of soft golden light, bringing art and a quiet magic. Their stories are warm embers in the dark, a whisper of eternal youth. A land where sleep is deep and ageless, wrapped in a gentle, misty calm. Feel the golden light on your skin, a touch so soft it soothes you into rest. Listen for the Celtic tongue, still drifting softly, in the lilting rhythms of Gaelic and Welsh. These words ride the misty breath of the Atlantic, the deep stillness of Highland dusk, a warm, low murmur, a lullaby from the coast, a whisper of salt and heather soothing the soul. Let the sounds carry you away to a place of cool mist and quiet, gentle sleep. In their twilight, the Celtic spirit merged with the new. A slow sunset, where old beliefs drifted into peaceful dark. A tender, quiet blending, not a break but a gentle tide. And from that dark, a new dawn rose, still whispering with the ancient calm, a soft golden light that never truly fades, carrying the warm echo of that deep, rural past, into a quiet, restful slumber. Close your eyes and imagine the ancient Druids, the quiet keepers of a vast and floating oral tradition. They held their sacred knowledge not in books, but in the deep, still waters of memory, believing that to write it down would be to let the mind grow soft and forgetful. So they spent up to 20 years in gentle study, learning by heart thousands of verses that would hum softly in their thoughts. This wisdom drifted peacefully through the ages, a warm current of spoken truth that moved from one soul to another without ever touching parchment or ink. It was as light and endless as the night wind stirring the dark leaves outside your window, a presence you can almost feel wrapping around you now. Now, drift into the mist-laden forests of ancient Gaul, where the air was thick with a sacred velvety silence. The Celts saw the mistletoe as a divine gift from the heavens, a small green star cradled in the cold arms of the winter oak. It was harvested with a golden sickle under the pale, whispering moon, in a ceremony so quiet you could hear the sap of the world slowing. They believed it could heal deep wounds and wrap a soft protective cloak around the spirit, all gathered in a moment of profound stillness. This was a deep bow to the gentle breathing earth, a reminder of the healing power that rests in the natural world, waiting to be remembered. Let your weary eyes rest on the Celtic interlace, the delicate lines that curve and weave into endless swirling knots. These are not mere decorations, but soft visual songs of eternity, where every strand flows into another without beginning or end. The intricate patterns were designed to lull the mind into a meditative drift, reminding us of the delicate web that connects all living things. Trace the warm, golden lines with your inner gaze, feel how they pull you into a rhythmic, gentle flow. It is a slow-moving stream carrying you towards a deep and restful sleep, where all boundaries dissolve and you are one with the endless peaceful design. Feel, now, the weight of the legendary Torc, a heavy ornate neck ring settling on your skin. It was crafted from twisted gold or bronze, polished to a soft, butter-like shimmer by patient hands. This ornament rested lightly against the collarbone, a symbol of high status and spiritual grace that caught the warm, flickering glow of distant hearth fires. In the quiet halls of chieftains, these rings reflected a deep golden light, their curves whispering stories of honor and protection. Let that warmth sink into your bones, a solid and comforting presence in the still, dark night. Imagine the soft chime of metal on metal, the weight of centuries of tradition resting so gently upon you. Finally, let the landscape gently lift you up to the soft green hills of Ireland and Scotland, where the Celts built their peaceful hill forts. These circular sanctuaries rose above the rolling plains, offering a panoramic view of shimmering far-off horizons that melted into the sky. They wrapped around the contours of the earth so seamlessly, they seemed to have emerged from the ground itself, silent and ancient. From these elevated refuges, one could see the vast sleeping world below, breathe in the endless. The Celts held a quiet knowing, a soft belief that the soul never truly ended. It simply drifted from one body to the next, like a leaf resting on a gentle stream. Death was not a closing door but a deep, still passage to something new. In the salt mist of the Atlantic, they shaped light curraghs from bent wood and stretched hide. These vessels sat low in the water, almost weightless, gliding through the shimmering fog like a breath on the glassy sea. The journey felt silent and seamless, as if the boat was part of the water itself. Their music held that same hush. They played the carnix, a long curving horn, and the lyre's soft strings, creating tones that felt like the wind moving through tall grass. Every note was shaped to match the slow rhythm of falling rain, a melody you could feel settling on your skin. Home was a round house, a circular shelter with a thick thatched roof that sloped downward like a protective wing. Inside, there were no sharp corners, only soft curves that held the warmth close. A central fire glowed with a deep orange pulse, wrapping the family in a blanket of steady, quiet light. And beyond the settlement, in certain groves of oak, the world held its breath. The air stayed cool and still, touched only by shifting patches of sunlight. These spaces were sanctuaries of silence, where a person could stand among the ancient trunks and feel the slow, vast pulse of the earth beneath their feet. They were the keepers of a silent library, where knowledge drifted on breath, not page. For 20 years, a druid would sit in the hush of an oak grove, letting the rhythm of 10,000 verses settle into the bone like a river shaping stone, believing that memory, not ink, held the sacred fire. From their hands flowed a living geometry, the Tène spirals turning in endless, curling reverie. Glowing gold and cool bronze twisted into forms that echoed the unfurling fern and the slow whirl of water, pulling the gaze into a quiet loop that promised the eye could wander forever without ever reaching an end. For the pattern itself was a gentle meditation on the infinite. To them, a grove of ancient oaks was the hull of a great, breathing cathedral, its pillars of rough bark lifting a roof of whispering green. The word druid itself is a soft marriage of oak and wisdom, a name that held the scent of damp earth and the steady patience of deep roots, suggesting that all true understanding begins by pressing one's ear to the heartwood of the world. In those misty lands, a woman's voice could rise as easily as the lark, carrying the weight of law and the clarity of the spirit. They walked as queens and sat among judges, their authority woven from a quiet, unyielding strength. Boudica, her hair a river of autumn fire, did not simply rage. She stood with a calm so fierce it became a shield, leading her people with a dignity that spoke of lands where the feminine was not a whisper, but a resonant chord. A torc was more than ornament. It was a frozen stream of sunrise clasped around the throat, heavy with shimmering gold or tightly braided bronze. This gleaming circle sat warm against the skin, a visible pulse of status that was also a steadfast guardian, wrapping the wearer in a soft, continuous glow of protection, as if the metal itself remembered the light of 1,000 dawns and held it there, just for them. The Coligny calendar, a mysterious bronze artifact, reveals the Celts' sophisticated understanding of lunar cycles, aligning their seasonal festivals with the tide's gentle ebb and flow. Celtic mythology speaks of the otherworld, a shimmering realm of eternal youth, where time moves slowly, accessed through ancient burial mounds or the quiet depths of sacred lakes. With patient hands, the Celts crafted delicate enamel jewelry, fusing vibrant colors into gold to create treasures shaped like birds or leaves, capturing the soft hues of the twilight forest. The layout of Celtic hill forts followed the natural contours of the landscape, blending seamlessly into rolling green hills to provide a sanctuary and harmony with the drifting winds and open skies. Early Celtic textiles, woven from soft wool and dyed with plant-based pigments, created warm, checkered patterns that wrapped the body in a gentle embrace against the cool, misty air of the Atlantic coast. And so, our journey through the world of the Celts fades into the quiet night. Your mind has wandered through ancient halls and moonlit mists. Now it's time to let it all drift away. If these gentle tales helped you find peace, leave a like below, and if you subscribe, I'll be here with you whenever you need a soft voice to guide you to sleep. Good night, sleep well, and remember the spirits of the Celts still dance in the twilight whenever you're ready to dream. Rest now, everything is exactly as it should be.